Hey, welcome everybody from that amazing open source community, that amazing developer community. I am your resident, one of the senior developer advocates here at DigitalOcean, and I am super excited to kick off Hacktoberfest 2024 with everybody out there tuning in. Hopefully, you got some coffee, some juice, some water. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are tuning in. Very excited to have everybody here. We're going to have a good couple hours. We have some amazing speakers. So thank you all for joining us. I wanted to run a couple things here. If you are on the socials, this is the official hashtag for Hacktoberfest, hashtag Hacktoberfest. And if you wanted to follow on Twitter, it's twitter.com/Hacktoberfest. You can just search Hacktoberfest, the Hacktoberfest account on Twitter, and you will be good to go. Also, if you have any questions, put them in any of the chats. We will do our best to try and answer them, get them up on the screen, try to get those answered for you. And just let us know where you're joining. I see a lot of people coming in from all over the globe, and that's exciting. That's a really great thing to see. We have community coming from all over the place. If you want to follow me on Twitter, like I said, my name is Chris DeMars, Senior Developer Advocate at DigitalOcean. You can catch me at Sultan Burnham on Twitter. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring up the first speaker. I'm going to bring up Mohan. He is the head of dev community here at DigitalOcean. So if you want to say hi, how you doing, Mohan?
Hey, Chris. I'm doing great and very excited for the start of Hacktoberfest 2024.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I'm going to let you have the stage. So take it away.
Thanks, Chris. Hello, everyone. It's great to see all the comments and people joining us from around the world. Thank you so much. On behalf of the entire team here at DigitalOcean, welcome to Hacktoberfest 2024. I'm going to quickly bring up some of my slides. Cool. All right. Thanks again, Chris. And as Chris mentioned, I serve the developer community here at DigitalOcean. Been a part of several Hacktoberfests in the past, and it's really heartwarming to see this program grow year on year. So because of the contributions of all of you and the excitement of people and developers and open source contributors around the world and maintainers. So this is truly one of the things that many of us look forward to year on year. And we couldn't be more excited for this year's edition as well. So for some of you who might be participating in Hacktoberfest for the first time, if you are, let us know in the comments if this is your first Hacktoberfest, and welcome. And for those of you who are returning participants, welcome to you too. For those of you who might not be familiar, what is Hacktoberfest? It's a month-long celebration of all things open source. Some call it one of the largest hackathons in the world because it happens over the span of an entire month. It's also, at the heart of it, a community program. It's a program that we built along with many of our sponsors, many of our partners, for the community. And it is truly what it is because of the power of community and the power of open source. So that's what Hacktoberfest is. I want to share a quick history of Hacktoberfest, right? This is going to be like a quick 60-second version of it. Back in 2014, our team put out a blog saying, tomorrow is Oktoberfest. Here's your opportunity. If you can make 50 or more commits on any public GitHub repo in the month of October, we'll send you a free limited edition t-shirt wherever you are in the world. And to our surprise, we saw more than 600 people sign up, 500 people complete it, and 50,000 pull requests in the first year. Totally encouraged by that, our team decided to continue doing this. Of course, along the way, we've made many programmatic changes, including, as many of you are now familiar, we asked for 4 pull requests on any participating Hacktoberfest repo on either GitHub, GitLab. So over the years, lots of programmatic and intentional changes based on what our community has been telling us has happened. And just taking a quick look at the numbers, right? You'll see Hacktoberfest has grown year on year. In our second year, we were close to 14,000 people signing up to participate. And those numbers have only increased year on year. And it's also important to remember that in 2020, 2021, we had the pandemic. And despite that, the community came together to participate and support this program. And on the right side, you'll see all the fantastic designs our teams have put together for the various t-shirts that people have earned over the years. Now, numbers only tell half of the story, right? Hacktoberfest is truly a community program, and the power really is in how it has contributed to the lives of many, many developers. We started receiving these pictures and feedback from the community of how teams are coming together at various organizations, be they small startups or big, larger enterprises, coming together to participate and hack away during the month of October and earn their prized DigitalOcean t-shirt or Hacktoberfest t-shirt. We also started seeing a lot of great feedback from the community on social platforms. Here is a super fan who's participated in Hacktoberfest for 5 years consecutively and proudly showing their 5 t-shirts that they've earned over the years. We also started seeing Hacktoberfest t-shirts out in the wild. Here's a speaker who participated in Google's Chrome Dev Summit in 2019, wearing their Hacktoberfest 2018 t-shirt. Lots of speakers also started doing talks at conferences like DevRelCon on how they survived or participated in Hacktoberfest and key lessons learned for maintainers, for contributors. So really, I think that's been the power of Hacktoberfest, right? Like I think communities and a lot of these logos you'll recognize. Some of you might be working for them. Some of you might have worked for them in the past. And lots of communities, lots of companies have come together to participate actively, profiling their projects and inviting contributions and participating in the overall, increasing the overall quality of open source out there. We also started seeing a lot of success stories from maintainers. This is a maintainer from Germany who speaks about maintaining multiple projects and how amazing it has been to receive contributions over the years to their projects. One thing that has blown our minds is some of the other impact that Hacktoberfest has been able to have on the community, right? This is someone from Kenya who says that because of their participation in Hacktoberfest, they've gotten multiple job offers and have also had the opportunity to speak at huge tech conferences. And that's amazing, right? If you have to look up some of these pictures, just search for hashtag Hacktoberfest on X or any of the social platforms, and you'll see the community really coming out and participating. And we hope to see a lot more of these pictures this year. Here are some pictures from Microsoft participating and having their own swag. The other great thing that happened with Hacktoberfest is how inclusive it is and how it's been able to bring first-time developers, first-time contributors to the program year on year. Here's Carly from Girl Develop It, who started participating and became comfortable contributing to open source projects, and that's amazing. Here's Frank, who started off as a contributor and then went on to become a maintainer. And here's Nikhil from India, who participated and was really touched by the impact it can have and wanted to pay it back by helping others participate in Hacktoberfest. So lots of great stories. If you have an amazing Hacktoberfest story, we'd love to hear from you. Share your story on any of the social platforms and tag us, tag Hacktoberfest, and we'd love to hear how you got started. If this is your first year, second year, third year, 10th year, we'd love to know, and we'd love to celebrate everything that you're doing for the open source community. A quick shout out to our sponsors and our community partners who've made this possible this year. Thank you, and we look forward to your continued participation and partnership over the years. Even this year, as we announced, Hacktoberfest and all of September is really Preptember, right? Many of you have been prepping to participate in Hacktoberfest. It's been heartwarming and so exciting to see companies put out their projects, maintainers show which projects they're inviting contributions to. Companies also announce internship programs. So lots of excitement, and we hope that continues through the rest of this month. With that, I think I want to, again, welcome all of you to Hacktoberfest 2024. We hope you have a great month of hacking away and contributing to open source. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan. Appreciate it so much. Glad to work on this with you. Glad to kick off Hacktoberfest. It's going to be a great, great month.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks so much. All right. So with that being said, let's get moving. Let's keep moving on with the show here. I am going to bring up, or Beta, my partner in crime, is going to bring up Ashika and Matt, and we are going to have a little discussion about the registration process, rules and regulations, stuff like that. So Matt, Ashika, if y'all want to kick it off, and I'll be here to nod my head.
Cool. I am looking forward to some head nodding. First of all, before we dive in, I feel like we should just do a quick roll call in chat. I am really curious, those of you that are watching currently, how many of you have already registered for Hacktoberfest, and how many of you have already submitted your first pull request? So we're only, technically we're a day into Hacktoberfest now, roughly, because we start pretty early to account for time zones. But I'm curious who's registered and who's got a pull request already. Because maybe we don't. Maybe
in the chat.
Maybe we don't need to. We might not need to walk through registration if people have already done it.
Ooh, nice.
We've got a lot of people that
registered.
Not many people have got their first PR in yet. Oh, I see one person saying they've submitted some PRs already. That's good.
Awesome. A lot of first year contributors. That's amazing to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I meant to talk about numbers, but as the lead engineer for Hacktoberfest, I have all the numbers on hand all the time. I have a full dashboard for it. It's spectacular to see, like, roughly 50% of people that are registered in the last week are new to Hacktoberfest this year.
That is awesome.
And honestly, it's a pretty consistent trend every year. Roughly half of the registrations are new people that haven't participated before, which is great, right? Because that's what Hacktoberfest is, I suppose, primarily about, is getting people into open source if they haven't done it before.
Right. I do see that a lot of people are saying that they haven't registered yet, and I really hope that by the end of the stream, we are able to convince you to get your contributions in.
Well, with that being said, Ashika, what is the registration process for people that haven't registered yet? How do they go about registering?
So I see that Matt's already sharing his screen. The registration process is really simple. All that you need to do is head over to hacktoberfest.com. I guess, Chris, you can drop the link in the chat for our viewers, all of our attendees. And all you need to do is click on the Start Hacking button, and you should be redirected to...
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to have to log myself out. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. Wait for it. There we go. Right. So if you go to the homepage, you press either Start Hacking at the top here or this big register button. You go to this.
Either of the two buttons work just fine, and you can choose to log in via GitHub, or you can authorize your account via GitLab. Same difference. All that you would want to take a look at are pull requests and merge requests, and the difference between both, which is just a platform segregation. But that's pretty much it. And you need to create your account. You need to get cracking on all the details that are required. Matt here has already added all of that in.
So I've already registered. But if I press this button and give it a second, this is I'm doxing my email, but it's public. It's fine. This is the form that you'll see when you register for the first time. So you get to set your name, pretty important. So the profile knows who you are. You get to pick your email address, which is, again, super important so that we can send you your badges as you participate. We need an email address we can actually send those to. Make sure you don't select the GitHub no reply one if you're using GitHub, because you won't get emails. We do show you a warning about that. There are a bunch of other questions here. They're completely optional, so you don't have to fill them out, but you can, and it helps us understand who's participating in Hacktoberfest. So, what we get to understand is our audience mainly people that haven't done open source before, which is kind of generally what we're targeting, or is it some people that have been in open source, for 10, 15 years? And are they just participating because they enjoy being in open source? And then I think the most fascinating question of the lot is, are you a student? I'm curious in chat, again, are people here students, or are you working people? Working people has a really weird way of wording that. But are you enrolled in school currently? Are you a student? I'm really curious. I think a lot of our audience for Hacktoberfest is students that are new to tech and are new to open source.
Just spam the chat and let us know where you stand right now. Are you a student? Are you a working professional? And we would love to know if you're a beginner, an absolute beginner, or a veteran contributor. Either ways, there's always going to be space for you in this community. And I do see a lot of stuff popping in. In the meantime, I'm just going to take up a couple of questions that I saw. So one of them is, I don't understand raising PR before the start of event. Isn't that cheating or something? I mean, it technically won't count towards your contribution to Hacktoberfest if you make any pull requests or merge requests to repositories before the start of the event in your time zone. So cheating or not, I don't know, but definitely invalid. Then we have got another one which says, should we do PR before registering? Was there a prerequisite? There are no prerequisites as such. You don't have to create a pull request before registering, but if you want to get a hang of making contributions to open source, you can always try to learn how to make pull requests or merge requests, again, whichever platform you're picking. But you don't have to create any PRs before registering. Just head over to hacktoberfest.com, create your account, and then start making contributions. There are no prerequisites. Again, doesn't matter if you're a beginner, doesn't matter if you're a veteran, Hacktoberfest is the event for you. And another great question that I see here is where to find repos to contribute. So there's this brilliant website that I followed when I was, participating in Hacktoberfest in, I guess, 2019, from 2019 to 2022. It's called Good First Issues. It's also a GitHub label. So if you head over to GitHub and you search for Good First Issues, you'll find a plethora of repositories that you can make contributions to. Apart from that, you can always head over to the website as well, pick whatever stack you're comfortable with. Let's say, for example, you're an absolute beginner, you're a fresher in your university, and you want to make contributions to any repositories that accept that are built using HTML. So you can just tag that tag, and yeah, that's how you filter that out. So as you can see on the screen, thanks to Matt, you can just filter out repositories that would be great first issues for you to make contributions to. So do leverage that. There are a lot of other resources that our team will be sharing with you folks today to get you up and running with all things Hacktoberfest. And of course, resources for beginners on hacktoberfest.com/participation. Please do give that a look. Yeah.
And I want to say too, make sure that when you do find a project to contribute to, whether that's on GitHub or My First PR, make sure that you do read the contributing guidelines, the contribution markdown file that usually comes along with these repos, because there are certain way that these projects and these maintainers, they want people to contribute to their projects. So make sure that you follow the rules that they have in place, as well as the rules and regulations that are set forth. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Chris. Like, Hacktoberfest isn't just about contributors, right? There's the whole other side to open source, which is maintainers, and we're eternally grateful to them. Open source couldn't work without maintainers running these projects, and Hacktoberfest couldn't work without maintainers who are there to handle pull requests coming in from contributors during the month. So it is so important that as a contributor, you communicate with maintainers, you respect them. If you're going to work on making a contribution to their project, try and find an issue first, check with them that they're happy for you to work on it. Just have that open dialogue with them where you can, so that they're not surprised by a change that you've made that they might not like. And if they want you to change how you're making your contribution, you can communicate with them and make that change. Because the worst thing we don't want happening is contributors turning up in repositories and annoying maintainers. We don't want that. No one wants that. So yeah, communicate with maintainers, make sure that you're doing the right thing.
So there's a question that I'd like to take up from the chat. It says, as a maintainer, it becomes very crowded very fast as lots of people want to contribute. Any tips? My biggest recommendation would be to have a thorough contributing guide and to, personally, this is what I would do. If you find any unfriendly, invalid PRs or MRs, please mark them with the relevant label. And that helps cut down any spammy behavior significantly. So that's one thing that you can always do. Apart from that, create issues and ask people to have issues assigned to them and not spam repositories in the readme section, in the contributing guide, both of these places. And I did see another cool question up here, which says there are many repositories that have Hacktoberfest tags, but not been associated to any issues. So can we choose any issue, and after been assigned, can I put the label Hacktoberfest to it? Matt, correct me if if I'm wrong. But if a repository has the Hacktoberfest label, then any issues pertaining to that specific repository is automatically eligible, to count towards completion of Hacktoberfest. So you're good to go. You don't have to put on the Hacktoberfest label. It's going to be on the maintainer of the repository to accept your PR or not and add any relevant labels associated.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, like much as we encourage people to find an issue to work on, Hacktoberfest doesn't require issues at all. All that we check is that the repository itself has that Hacktoberfest topic, which indicates the maintainer is opted in and accepting contributions as part of Hacktoberfest. And then any pull request you make there will get tracked. And then as soon as the maintainer accepts it, it will be counted as accepted for Hacktoberfest. So those are the two checks we're doing: is does it have the topic on the repository, and has your pull request actually been accepted by a maintainer?
Awesome.
So that's all you need to do.
Awesome. This has been a great conversation, y'all. I hope everybody got a little bit of clarity on how to register, some rules and regulations, contributing guidelines. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ashika, for all your work, everything that you do, not just at DigitalOcean, but for the community. So we're going to keep on rocking and rolling.
If I may, Chris, I have one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just, if people have more questions, save them for the end. We'll be back at the end with a whole other section just to answer people's questions in chat. So pay attention to all the presentations you're about to get. And then if you have more questions about like how Hacktoberfest works or anything else, save them for the end, and we'll be back to walk through them all.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Matt.
And I'll be answering any questions I see that are relevant for sure. So keep the questions coming, and we are definitely going to take up more time towards the end of this stream to answer any questions you may have and have you all prepped for Hacktoberfest. Thank you, folks.
Cool. Thank you all. All right. We're going to keep the show going. Our next speaker is Narcy, Senior Developer Advocate here at DO. And I want to bring Narcy up to the stage. Hey, Narcy, how you doing?
Hey, hi, Chris. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Let's get the show rocking and rolling. So I'll let you take it away.
Perfect. Yeah. Let me start my screen share. All right. Let me know if you can see it. Yep. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nasima Badrinath, and I'm a Senior Developer Advocate at DigitalOcean. So today's talk, we have around 15 to 20 minutes of time. So we're going to cover this containerizing the RAG pipelines. The AI hype is real. So why? I think definitely because I believe that the retrieval augmented generation itself contributes a big part to why currently people are actually raving about this, because it has made many applications possible that are actually doing really great. Actually, the applications are really amazing to see. Wherever you see people are building products using AI, there a big part of that has to go to RAG as well. So if you have not heard of this term yet, I think probably that is the first thing you should be searching in Google and get to know what this is. So if you have already known what it is, then probably to understand how it works, you don't have to go anywhere. Just again ask one of the LLMs chat GPT or anything, it will tell you that, okay, how do you implement RAG in just few lines? So that's also not that difficult. But probably after that, let's say when you know how to implement this, then if you want to productionize this, let's say if you want to really take it, make it like a application where people can use it, then we will have to actually look at some of the things that we can try to do, which actually helps us to scale it, make it more flexible, and actually help us to build really good productionable applications. So that's the reason behind what we have done here, is that we have taken the simple RAG application to the next level, where we have broken down this into a components, and then we are containerizing that, and we are deploying into a GPU droplets. So GPU droplets is our newest offering in the DigitalOcean. It actually provides us the VMs which are backed by GPUs, and it is backed by H100 GPUs, which are like super powerful, and it makes the the responses super fast. We're going to take a look at how we have actually made this application via this diagram. So the simple way we have just broken down the entire application, the retrieval augmented generation actually has few parts. So there is a web interface where you can have a question answer kind of a chatbot or some UI which actually helps you to do that. The second bit is where actually you can just download some documents from any of the sources available. You can just have some strategy in it to divide that, chunk it, and then store it into a vector database. So these are the three big parts that you can actually see, that you will see in most of the RAG implementations. And that is how we can actually even divide it. So you see that the web, which actually has the LLM aspect of it, is broken down into one component. Storing documents is divided into another component, and the vector database is made as another component itself. So the advantage that we get by doing this is that we can containerize all three separately, we can run them together, and we can just ensure that they they connect to each other, and they talk to each other, and they give us the notion that it's just one application helping us with the question answering. If you observe a couple of things here, so the entire thing is deployed in the GPU droplet, and because we are containerizing this, so if it is run as a separate Python application, you do not need the NVIDIA container toolkit. Because we are containerizing this application, not only this, any of these applications, let's say if you want to containerize it, if you want to run it as a Docker container or any other container, you would have to need this NVIDIA container toolkit. The good thing is the GPU droplets already comes with it. The images that we have used comes with the NVIDIA container toolkit. So we will see how actually we're gonna we're gonna take a quick look at the code, and then we're gonna see that how to actually deploy this onto a GPU droplet. So the way I have explained in this diagram, the code also you can see something like the web application. It has some other files also for doing some other stuff, but the web.py does the Gradio UI, which actually gives you a text box and another text box for question and answer. And the RAG and retrieve documents does the part of retrieving the relevant documents that are present in the vector database. So the store service is the store documents component I was talking about. This basically contains store documents.py, which actually does the job of downloading the data from one of the sources, and then it will chunk it, and then it will store into the vector database. So in this case, we are using the Devo spaces. DigitalOcean has the spaces, which is the object storage, where you can just upload the documents. It could be PDFs, Word documents, anything. In this case, we have used some of the PDFs to help us out with reading through the PDFs and then answering the users questions answers. So very simply, it's like it is going to download from the Devo spaces, and then it is going to chunk it. Chunking is basically to divide that entire PDF into small chunks. We can give the number here as to how many letters it has to use it for chunking, and it's going to vectorize that by putting that in a vector store. So vectorization actually helps in doing the semantic search. So normal search that we do many of the times, it is going to be a keyword search, but the semantic search understands the meaning behind what the user is trying to ask, and then it is going to answer to that particular question by looking into all that is stored in the vector store. So the third component is the Chroma DB itself in this particular case. So that is already available as an image. So that is going to be something we can just spin up as a container. So this is how it looks like in the code. So how to containerize this? So we're going to look at the Docker compose YAML file. So this is how, if you have used Docker, then you know that you can just create from the GitHub code that you have, you can create an image. From the image, you can just run it as a container, and you can just run it in any of these cloud providers. In this case, in DigitalOcean, we're going to run it on the GPU droplet. So in this particular case, we are actually running it as 3 separate containers. So the 3 components that we have divided, it's going to be run as 3 separate containers, but we'll make sure that they talk to each other. We make sure that they have some volumes mounted, which actually one of them can access the other ones. So in this particular case, the Chroma DB's image is already available in the Docker Hub. By just providing this, it will download from the Docker Hub, it will start running it as a container, and it exposes the port 8000. And it does belong to this app network, and it exposes that host to be able to connect to the rest of the containers. The second one, the store documents, as I said, it is going to do, it's actually going to do building of the application. It does build the application, because the context we are telling that you can find the code here, use the Docker file which is present inside the store service, and then run this store documents.py after this is over. So at the end of this execution, so the PDFs, what I have already uploaded in the Devo spaces, will be downloaded. It will be chunked, it will be stored into the vector store. So we have a dependency on the Chroma DB here, so that it will make sure that the vector DB is available, and then after that it will do this operation. So next thing is, we also have secrets kept as a text file here. The reason we are using this is because we need some configurations to be provided to the secrets file, so that this will connect to the Devo spaces. This store documents will connect to the Devo spaces, download those documents, and then it will store it into vector databases. So I'm going to come to this part when I'm showing the demonstration of that. The third component is the web component, which is the UI I was talking about. So it's simply, we say that find the code in the web app and use the Docker file which is present in there and create an image out of this one. So it depends on the store documents. So that means that the store documents has to complete its job before the web is made available, so that we have that the vector store is in place. Store documents has done its job of converting the PDF content into vectors and storing the vector database. Now we have the web application which is available, ready for serving the customers for any Q&A. So this is the spaces.cfg file, which is I'm going to open and show what it is used for. And we are creating a bridge so that this all 3 can talk to each other. The volume mount will help actually to make sure that when the Chroma DB, by just in case it just goes down as well, the data which it has vectorized will be on the host machine. Because of that, we can actually spin up the new Chroma DB again, and you can just, it will just use the data which is already present in the host machine to serve the for the retrieval from the LLM. So yeah, this is the crux of the whole containerization for the RAG applications. So now what we're going to do, we're going to just do this, like deploy this onto a GPU droplet. For that, we need to actually create a GPU droplet, and then we're going to access it via SSH, and we're going to just do cloning and running the application. So let's see how it works. Let's create a GPU droplet. So here is where you can just, so cloud.digitalocean.com will give us this dashboard where you can just come to this GPU droplets, or you can just go into the project. You can just create a GPU droplet. So this screen will actually help you to choose the data center and the image that you want. So the AI ML ready image actually does contain a lot of already existing packages, which is necessary for, or most of the essentials that is required for running the AI ML loads. So I'm going to choose that, or I'll just keep it like that. And the GPUs which are provided in the GPU droplet comes in 2 configurations. One is the NVIDIA H100 one GPU in a single droplet. The other configuration is that you will get 8 H100 GPUs available in the GPU droplet. So in most of the cases, this is simple. In my case specifically, this is the simplest one. It does not require so much of a memory or compute capacity. Because of that, I'm going to choose this one. But if any other compute or any other intensive like model training and fine tuning kind of things, which are like really compute heavy workloads are there, then we can just go with NVIDIA H100, 8 H100s. Then we're going to choose the SSH keys. So you can upload, or you can just add a new SSH keys into the DigitalOcean portal. Here you can just come to the settings, and you can just open the settings here. In the security, you can just add a new SSH key. So the SSH keys, if you have not already tried, you can just generate via SSH keygen. The public key, you can copy it here and you can just close it. A new fingerprint would be available here. You can just give a name to it. I'm going to just delete this after this demo is over. So you can just create a new one and get a fingerprint here. So that will be useful for the DOCTL, which I'm going to come to. As of now, you won't be needing that. But yeah, so when you want to create a new SSH key, the SSH fingerprint is not required. You can just add a new key. And then I'm going to create, I'll just give a new, let's say, demo. And I'll keep it in the demo cloud. Yep. So this should be good. Let me create a GPU droplet. So this is going to take a little bit of a time for provisioning because unlike the regular droplet, this is going to take a little more time for provisioning because of the size and the capacity of the GPUs as well. Meanwhile, let's just go back to this and tell you that where what is the other way that you can actually spin up a GPU droplet. So if you see here the prerequisites for doing this, I already have a DigitalOcean account, so I just if not, you can just create it by clicking this URL. The DOCTL command or CLI is another way you can just use it. The one which I used it using the UI of the GPU droplets creation. The another most which I really like doing is the DOCTL, which is a command line. By just giving the droplet name and the region that you want to use it or the data center that you want to choose. The image is the single, this is the image that we use, and the size is the one H100. This is the SSH fingerprint that I was talking about that you can just copy from there and provide it here. Executing this does the same operation as what I did in the UI. It will just help you to provision a new GPU droplet. So that means that once the VM is available, once the GPU droplet is available, we will be able to do a clone and then run the application. So let's quickly just take a look. Okay, it is still taking a time. Let's go back here and see what's next we can do. So SSH root GPU droplet IP. So what I'm going to do is that I have already installed a remote extension in my VS Code here. So if you have not done so, probably this is a good thing to do because it easily helps you to connect to a remote machine, and then you can just execute command in the terminal, or you can just open the folder and directly do the development in there. So yeah, perfect. Okay, so it is active, it is available for me to use, and to access this GPU droplet, you can actually check out a lot of other details about what this GPU droplet has, the networking volumes and things like that. So in my case, I would be requiring the IP address to connect to this machine and then git clone and run the application. So I'm going to copy this IPv4 address. I'll go back to the VS Code. Let me just start a new terminal. And let me connect to this machine. So connect to host. I'm going to add a new SSH host. It also gives you a command how to connect to that. SSH root at, this is the IP address which I copied. I'll enter and I'll say add it to the config files, config that I have maintained, and I click on connect. So this will connect my VS Code ID, this one, onto the remote machine. As I mentioned, we should be able to access the machine's terminal and even open the folders that are present inside to do the job. Okay, so in my case, I'll be using only the terminal. So in this terminal, the thing that we actually supposed to do is, so let's do a git clone and then move on to that particular folder. So git clone of this, and then we want to go to the rack containers. So this is done. So I'm going to clear this. Okay, another prerequisite that we have mentioned here is that we have a Docker Compose to be installed and the NVIDIA Docker, which actually ensures that the Docker containers talk to the NVIDIA drivers. So because of that, this shell script, we're going to execute it. Let me give privileges to this, mod X, and then scripts prerequisite. Okay, now let's just execute it. All right, okay. Okay, this is done. So the next part is how do we make sure that this will connect to the DO spaces, the where I have already uploaded. I'm not showing the part where I have already uploaded some of the PDFs to the object storage. How did I get all the values in there? Because that can be easily understood by one of the tutorials available or the documentation from the DigitalOcean. So that basically I have already done the part that some of the PDFs that contains information for me to answer about the GPU droplets, I have already uploaded in the object storage in the DO spaces. I have copied some of the values. I'll just show you how to use it here. So to make things easier, we have just given an example file which you can copy. So let me just copy it and let's see what is there inside this one. I'll do VI. Okay, so these are the values we have to provide so that the second component, the storage, the store service component, which is supposed to connect to the DO spaces and download the PDFs from there, and then it is going to make sure that it is vectorized and stored in the ChromaDB. So these are the values which I need to provide. I do have it already available with me, and I'm moving this window here so that I can just copy paste those values. Let me just quickly do that, because these are the keys and secrets which I don't want to share it in the sharing screen. So I'll just quickly make those changes and I'll pull this window back once I have already. Okay, so I just pasted all the values that I have already noted down, which I have gotten from the DO spaces, the key, secret, and everything. So I'll just do saving this file. Okay, I'll just bring this VS Code back. So I have this spaces.cfg file saved with all those values that I actually had already noted. And now the only thing left is to run this application. So this run.sh already contains the code which does Docker compose up. So basically it will run all the three containers in the GPU droplet. So let's just execute that. Okay, so this operation is going to take some time because as you have already seen in the Docker Compose, it actually has to download the ChromaDB image, run the container. Second, it has to build the storage service. Then it has to create an image. Then it has to run the container. Then it has to go to the third thing, the web. It has to build the image, run the container. So the bottom line is it's going to take some time. So I do not want to make this demo really long. So I have already created that and kept it for you so that you can just take a look at it. So basically the whole thing, what I did already is something which I have already done just before this demonstration. So you can just see this. This is the AIML bootstrapper, just it's the same thing which I have already done it. So we can just copy the URL. So what is happening here is that it is already running these three containers in the AIML bootstrapper. What we can simply do is access this URL. The Gradio application is running in the 7860 port, which is the web application. So by accessing that port, we'll be able to get this UI. So by the time we complete this, if we are able to get this whole thing working, let's take a look at that as well. But yeah, meanwhile, this is something which I have already kept it ready so that this demo does not take really long. This is how the UI looks. It's very simple. So this is the question and this is the answer. So I can ask any question about what I had already uploaded in the PDFs. Let's say if you're a new user who wants to know about the GPU droplets, let's say what configurations are available. So what are the GPU configurations available, right? So I want to know as a user, what are the different GPU configurations available? So I just fire that question and you can see that the context, it says that you have two different kind of configurations available, 8 GPU configuration and 1 H100 configuration available. You observe that the speed is so fast because of the H100 that is actually doing much, the processing much faster. So yes, so this is not like we are taking the RAG to the next level where the retrieval augmented generation. I have not covered how the RAG itself works, because that is almost common thing which everybody is been using it. It has already been there in the industry for like almost 1.5 years. So now we are actually taking that forward to containerize these things. We are making sure that it is flexible enough, because let's say I want to change the vector store to, let's say, something else in the future. I want to change the strategy of how we are storing the documents. And let's say if I want to scale it, let's say if I want to, let's say I am getting like lots of users to my website, I want to ensure that this should be available for catering to that level of people who are coming to my website. Then we can even deploy to Kubernetes, and we can actually scale it so much, so we can cater to even like so many users. So that's the real advantage of containerizing these applications. All right, so that actually concludes my demo. So we can just check. Okay, it is still taking long. So okay, so I don't want to hold up. Probably, I think I'm almost near the 20 minutes thing. So Chris, let me know if we can just stop the demo here. We can just move on to the next one.
Yeah, no, we are good, Narcy. I appreciate it. That's an amazing demo. If you have the repo link, if you can put that out there, tweet it, put it in all the different chats that we have, that would be great. Thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate you. The community appreciates you. Thank you so much. So our next speaker I want to bring up is Lizzie Siegel, developer advocate at Cloudflare. So Lizzie, I hope you're doing great. I hope you're doing amazing. I know it's early on the West Coast, but go and take it from here.
Let me know where you're coming. Okay. Hi all, thanks Chris. Chat, let me know where you're coming from this morning. I'm Lizzie, a developer advocate based in San Francisco. So I do not usually wake up this early, gonna be honest. Let's see now. Move StreamYard around. Going to share screen. And Chris will be watching the chat. India, loving the LinkedIn and GitHub drops. Nigeria, New York. I'm headed to New York in 2 weeks, going to Grace Hopper. So, welcome to Seeing is Believing, Unleashing the Power of Llama 3.2 for Multimodal Magic. So, this is how I made that header image. This is the Cloudflare Multimodal AI Playground. I dragged and dropped this text box, and then I typed in llama wearing futuristic VR glasses in front of flames looking cool with text boxes. And then I dropped this image generation block, and then it generated the llama image. Let me know in the chat if you have used this before, and I will drop the slides link later so you can play around with the Cloudflare Multimodal AI Playground. So it's very easy to generate images, generate text via voice in a multimodal playground. And there's also a text generation playground as well. I'm Lizzie. I'm a developer advocate at Cloudflare, based in San Francisco. And I studied computer science at Bryn Mawr long ago. And I'm based in San Francisco. And you can find me online at Lizzie Pika. So I love Pikachu. And in my free time, I like tennis, ping pong, running, and biking. If you like any of those, let me know in the chat. Like tennis players. I'm a big fan of Naomi Osaka. Anyone? And at Cloudflare, I focus on AI demos, educational videos, YouTube shorts, and AI blog posts. Love demos like this one, holding up stuff that was detected in my webcam video application. What is Cloudflare? Cloudflare is a global network designed to make everything you connect to the internet secure, fast, and reliable. It provides services like CDN, DDoS protection, DNS, and security for millions and millions of websites and applications. It focuses on security, scalability, and low latency performance with over 300 data centers worldwide. So the applications that you deploy on Cloudflare will be very fast. This will come in handy when we talk about our new AI offerings soon. What is Cloudflare Workers AI, which we will be using today with Llama 3.2 and 3.2 Vision? Anyone? So Cloudflare Workers AI offers serverless AI at the edge, where you can run AI models close to your users, because Cloudflare has all these data centers close to users. The seamless integration, you can use AI models like Llama 3.2, 3.1, Mistral. Some people call it Mistral, but I call it Mistral because I took French in high school. You can use these models directly within Cloudflare Workers as well as in Python applications. Any Python developers in the chat? It offers low latency and high availability. So AI inference at the edge reduces response times for users everywhere. It's flexible and scalable, so you can build AI-powered apps without worrying about managing servers or infrastructure. And you benefit from Cloudflare's built-in security stack, including encryption, rate limiting, and DDoS protection. Woo! So last week was a big week at Cloudflare. We turned 14, and this was called our birthday week. I had a cupcake stuffed in my face for a video, but it involves a lot of product updates, product launches, product partnerships, company partnerships. Exciting time. Some people did not sleep that much. I was lucky too. I'm still new. And there were a lot of updates that excited me about inference and AI, which is kind of a buzzword, but anywho. What is inference? Anyone in the chat know? Yes, Matt. So many cool updates as part of birthday week. Inference refers to the process, if you do not know, of making predictions or decisions based on data in a trained model. It occurs after the model has already been trained and is deployed for real-world use. Inference can be performed locally on a user's device or remotely in the cloud. The speed and efficiency of inference depends on factors like the model complexity and hardware used. And this is the same llama image that was generated by AI. What is multimodal inference? Because this confused me for a while. Everyone was like, multimodal is the next big theme. I was all, what is multimodal? It's a model. Okay. This enables richer understanding by integrating multiple forms of information. Text-only models like Llama 3.1 can miss out on visual context. Vision-only models lack deep language reasoning. They look at images and generate images. Multimodal models fill the gap by using both inputs together. So it combines text and image, or audio and image, audio and text. One of those inputs takes, and then the model takes in one of those inputs, audio, text, image, and then outputs one of those that's different from the input. So Llama 3.2 came from Meta. Thank you, Meta. This is their announcement blog post, which I link at the end of these slides, which will be available to you. Llama 3.2, lightweight and multimodal Llama model. So they're improving the old Llama. So some of the takeaways from that, and I did summarize it with Claude. I've been using Claude more now. They offer smaller models, including 1 billion and 3 billion parameters, optimized for text-only tasks like summarization, instruction following, and rewriting. On device, designed to run on edge and mobile devices, making them ideal for low latency, private on-device applications. It's very efficient, fitting within the constraints of mobile hardware, like Qualcomm. And while maintaining strong performance, in text-based tasks. Use cases, again, ideal for on-device applications like summarizing messages, rewriting text, or creating local AI assistants that don't rely on cloud processing. I feel like I might be forgetting something. These are all text-based. Yes, but wait, there's more. And someone told me that she was too young for Billy Mays in this meme, but wait, there's more. What is Llama 3.2 vision? They operate larger models, including 11 billion and 90 billion parameters, and multimodal capabilities. These vision language models can handle both text and image inputs and perform complex vision tasks with complex image understanding, like captioning images, visual question answering, reasoning across visual data, like analyzing graphs, maps, or scenes. And it can replace their text-only counterparts, like the 11B text model, but excel at vision-related tasks, unlike text-only models. The 90B parameter model is more powerful and capable of handling complex tasks and large data sets, and it provides better accuracy in reasoning in both its visual and text tasks. So why use Llama 3.2 vision? It's richer context from both images and text, adaptable to a wide range of applications, and built for production level inference. Scalability. I built this application, and we will see a demo soon. And you upload an image or a chart, and then you type a question or prompt about it. And let's see it. Sorry. Sure. I'm going to run it locally. So I need to get off the VPN. Oh, whoops. I don't know why I dragged my code. I'm going to drag my code soon. We are going to go to localhost. What website do you go to? You go to localhost 8787. And we are going to upload an image or a chart. Good thing I have downloaded Alcohol References by Taylor Swift albums. Any Swifties in the chat? What question should I ask about the chart? What Taylor Swift album references champagne? And today is October 1st, so that is kind of like red season. If you know her album's eras. Champagne. Analyze image in question. Analyzing. According to the provided bar chart, Taylor Swift references the word champagne in her 1989 album Reputation. Also folklore, so it missed folklore. Not sure why it said 1989 album, but it did say Reputation. Beer. Team Reputation. Yes. Not sure why it is taking long. Beer. Those aren't lyrics. So it is hallucinating. But it does get this part, only the Reputation album appears to use bar. No, that's not even true. This is literally hallucinating. Yeah. Well, that is a live AI demo, because I would not have showed you this if it did not work quite a few times. But you can test it out yourself here. And again, we saw it hallucinate, and hallucinate is when the model lies, when it acts confidently. And this does happen, but I wanted to show it live. It did work last night and last week when I made it. This is running locally. And now let's look at some code. Let's look at how it's built. This is in a Cloudflare worker. Anyone here use Cloudflare workers? It's kind of like a place to host code, run code. You can deploy your websites, web apps, and more. And I have been using Cursor. I'm a Cursor convert. A Cursor is a VS Code fork that adds in AI for AI code generation. You can kind of like talk to your code, ask it to fix. So it's like using Claude. What Claude model? I'm blanking. It's just after 8 a.m. It uses the Anthropic model in the code editor to save you time. Anyways, back to the code. Here is the web page. I had Claude generate the CSS. I have not written CSS in a while. I kind of wanted it to be kind of retro, video gamey, like that text font. Yes, Chris, CSS for the win. Okay. I always add this footer built with heart using Cloudflare Workers AI. And then we get the image input, display an image preview, get the text input, and the upload form that contains the image input and the text input, because this is a multimodal model using Llama 3.2 vision. Then we have an analyze button and a result div. So on button click, when we detect change, we check that there is an image uploaded. When the button is clicked, we check that image, there is text. Disable the button to show that we clicked the button. Get the form data, including the image and the text, because it is multimodal. We hit this endpoint, passing it form data. A lot of checking because I was getting some errors. And then, so we hit this endpoint, analyze image, which is here in index.js, which is our Cloudflare Worker JavaScript code. Oh, I have not used a CSS. I try to use CSS frameworks. I try to use JavaScript frameworks. I'm a JavaScript vanilla purist overall, but I have written some React. I did get on that train for a while. Okay, so JavaScript code for Cloudflare Worker. We need this async fetch. We get the URL and we display the HTML if it's just this path /. If we post and the path name is analyze image, which we just hit with that form data, we get that form data, we get the image file, we get the input prompt, we convert the image file to an array buffer and uint8 array to analyze those integers, because it's to a computer, the image is an array of integers. And we create this input object. In JavaScript, everything is an object. Pass it the image and the prompt, which is the text that was input on the page. Claude is using 3.5 Sonnet. Yes, thank you, Himanshu. I was like, Sonnet poem. And then this is where we call Llama 3.211b Vision Instruct, which is hosted on Cloudflare Workers AI. And it really is this easy to run an LLM, run a model with only a few lines of code. This is like the Cloudflare Workers code. Well, I guess we need input. That is just around 10 lines of code with some print statements and stuff to run a model with code in JavaScript. And you can also use Python and the Cloudflare Worker. And does anyone know how much it costs to run this model hosted on Cloudflare Workers? How much it costs to run Llama 3.2 11b Vision Instruct? Anyone? Any guesses? It is free to run on Cloudflare Workers AI. Beta models that are still in beta are free. Yeah, great for developers. So we run the model on the input image and the prompt. And then we pass that back in a response. And then we get that response here in const result. Do some, modify the text, add some breaks, bold, display it. And then you see the results of the model of Llama 3.2 vision. Yes, Workers AI has a free tier for all models, all the beta models, and a lot of models are in beta. And Ringler.toml, I only have the AI binding. So I guess like if I were to build this live, I wouldn't have the code, but you would run npm create Cloudflare latest. And they would ask you a series of questions. What language you want to use? I always say JavaScript. You could use TypeScript, Python. And then this file is generated by Cloudflare. All projects need this. You need this AI binding. So your Cloudflare Worker app can communicate with the AI models. Here we use AI, env.ai.run. And then you would just add the static HTML file and this. And the GitHub code will be available afterwards. Back to slides. Quickly. I'm headed to Dev Day later today, so we'll be headed out. This project took 2 hours. And that's because I built another project before it, where I roasted my Strava workouts. I uploaded a screenshot of a Strava image workout. Anyone who used Strava, great workout app. And it would parse the text from the image. And I was like, analyze this workout, roast this workout, tell me what workout to do. And then right before I was going to film a video, I was like, I need to make a playground, like something more broad, something more useful than roasting or analyzing my workout. So I built ask a question about this chart, image, graph. So Llama 3.2 has some real world applications, e-commerce, healthcare, social media. And I think just combining images with text is very powerful, like generating captions, product descriptions, looking at medical images. Here are some resources. You can scan this QR code, and I will also link the slides at the end of this talk. The GitHub repo, Cloudflare Workers AI models. A lot of models are hosted on Cloudflare Workers. And I think like over 50. Hugging Face also hosts Llama 3.2. And that is all I have for you. I'm Lizzie Pika Online. You can find my GitHub and email if you have any questions. And if you're in San Francisco, say hi. Don't be a stranger. And I'll take questions in the chat. But thank you, Chris, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lizzie, so much for joining us. It was amazing seeing that presentation, amazing having you. So thank you once again. If you want to send over, or if you want to post your slides in the chat, definitely go for it, or any repos and stuff like that. I'm sure the community would love to consume that. So thank you again for joining us. We really, really do appreciate it, and all of the hard work that you do in open source in the community. So.
Thanks.
All right, y'all. Let's bring up our next speaker. This is going to be a presentation from Marcus, staff engineer here on the AP team. So take it away, Marcus.
Hey, Chris. Thanks. Hello, everybody. As Chris already said, I'm Marcus. Chris, can you bring up my slides? Thank you. I'm Marcus. I'm a tech lead on our platform here at DigitalOcean. And I'm going to talk to you about a project I'm working on which is our platform. And we're also going to talk a little bit about, what is it? Why do you even care? Like, why am I talking to you about it? And at the very end, we'll get into some suggestions on how you can contribute to the wider app platform ecosystem to get your Hacktoberfest swag, I guess. And nice, I forgot to add section title there. So that's up for a great start for me. First of all, what is App Platform? App Platform is DigitalOcean's platform as a service offering that allows you to publish code directly to our servers, and you then don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. So essentially, you give us code, we move that onto our servers, and we give you a URL back. And so, your code is then available online. People can use it, all that cool jazz. You essentially get from code to hosted URL in minutes. And there's a couple of ways how you can approach doing that. First of all, from your Git provider. So currently that's either GitHub or GitLab, with Bitbucket coming as well. You give us your repository. We scan that repository and see what kind of code is in there, like what language are you using, what framework are you using. And then we're going to propose to you what we think your app should look like. An app can consist of many different components. And so we scan the repository, we figure out what is in there, propose to you what we think we found out, which you can then adjust and fine tune. And then we will build that code into an image. And when I say image here, I mean an OCI compliant image, quote unquote Docker image. And we will run it and give you the URL back. And there you go. Your code is then online. Whenever you can configure things so that whenever you push a change to your Git repository, we will pick up that change, run the build again, and eventually deploy the change so that you have a fully automated, quote unquote, pipeline by just ticking a box, essentially. Second way of doing things is from an image directly. As I was explaining, we build an image out of your code, so you can also just give us an image and we then just deploy it and run it. Less like a platform as a service, more like a container as a service type of thing. And lastly, we also have static sites where in your GitHub repository, if there's static files like HTML, CSS, and all of that stuff, we will build that and host it on our Spaces platform behind the CDN. So, you get caching, you get worldwide distribution, and all of that stuff. So why do you care? Why should you use our platform? It's very easy to use. You get your code online in just a few clicks. We, and that includes me, manage the infrastructure. We handle the complexity, we handle scaling, we handle managing of your app, all of that. And last but not least, it is affordable. So it's great for newcomers with a free tier. It has reasonable pricing for very small apps as well. So give it a shot. If you're creating a new project or whatever for Hacktoberfest, and you are looking for some place to host your things, give it a shot. And now to the meaty stuff. How can you contribute? So first of all, I want to really hammer home that our platform is built on open source, as probably all of the products out there right now. I mean, probably everything is built on the Linux kernel somewhere. So there's that. But here's a short assortment of things that we are built on, like Kubernetes, Istio, Prometheus, Fluentbit, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So we love open source. So how can you contribute to our platform? Our platform itself obviously is not obviously, but it is closed source. But we have pieces of it that are out in the open. And one of them is a GitHub action that I'm actually more excited about than I probably should be. for, I don't even know why anymore. We have a GitHub action. And all that I was explaining earlier with how you can configure a Git repository, how you can give us an image, etc., etc., especially with the configure a Git repository thing, you give us permission to pull changes for you. And we set up this pipeline for when you push, the changes flow into our system. That is all cool and it works fine. But what if you need more control? What if you want to build something more fancy? And so one way we could have approached this is we could have built an arbitrary pipeline product, right? That allows you to put pieces together. But GitHub Actions actually already gives you that. Like in GitHub Actions, you can do stuff on the lifecycle of your repository with like all of the complex, like all of the power that you want. You can get as complex as you want. And so we've built a GitHub action that makes it very easy to integrate our platform into the flow that you're already building. So for example, if you build an action that runs tests, and then after the test you want to deploy, you can do that with this action. This action also surfaces a lot of the metadata that an app would generate during deployment. So for example, optionally, you get access to the build logs, you get access to deployment logs and all of that. So you can then use GitHub's action ecosystem to take that metadata and put it in places where you want it. For example, we've built an integration with this where users, repositories can set up a GitHub action flow that whenever somebody opens a pull request against that repository, a new app is created in DigitalOcean App Platform, and that the URL of that app is returned to the user in a sorry, Matt, you just thrown me off with this thing popping up. The URL is returned to the user in a comment of the pull request, and if it fails, the failed deployment logs are surfaced in that comment as well. And it's stuff like that you can just, you can just run with this and build all kinds of flows out of this. Which brings me to the point of how can you contribute? First of all, the V2 of this action is pretty new. So if you feel like some of the concepts are not properly explained in the documentation, go out and fix it, propose a fix. Super happy to get a better documentation for things. I'm not the best at writing documentation, admittedly, and I've written the current one. So feel free to stab away at that. If you feel like there's a missing feature in the GitHub action, the current GitHub action is written completely in Golang. So if you feel like there's a missing feature, please propose it in an issue, and then let's collaborate on getting the feature that you're missing into the action if we think it should go there. But let's discuss in an issue. And lastly, examples. If you've built an integration with our action that you think could benefit other users as well, contribute it either to the documentation, or let's add an examples folder with example flows. Again, I'm happy to discuss all of this in the actions of the repository that in the issues of the repository that you see on the screen. And next, for our platform, we have a lot of samples. Because of what I was explaining earlier with how we detect, we detect which language you're using, we detect which framework, we detect how we should build things. Naturally, that means we support quite a few languages, like Node.js, Golang, the list, Ruby, the list goes on. We from the App Platform team, and this is a little, probably not a secret, but we from the App Platform team are not necessarily experts in all of those languages. We are experts in our platform, but being experts in all of those languages and being experts in all of those ecosystems is a tough ask. And so if you are passionate about one of the samples, about the samples that we already have and the languages in there, and you go in there and you're like, geez, that's totally not how you should write Ruby. Like, that's so old. We don't do this since 5 years. Please, no. Please go in and fix it. Like, please go in and like touch up things, make sure that paradigms are like a modern and how people use the respective language today. And secondly, if you miss samples, if you think like we should be having something that we don't, please contribute that as well. A bit like not quite sure how to reach us best for this one. I would suggest just post an issue on one of the repositories that you think are related to what you want to contribute, and then let's discuss there and figure out how to actually add a new sample. And that's it for me. That's it for our platform and how you can contribute to it. Happy Oktoberfest.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcus. That GitHub action, I think is going to be really popular. I know Matt is looking into it. I think Matt really digs it. So we appreciate you here. We appreciate you in the community. So thank you so much for being a speaker for the Hacktoberfest 2024 kickoff. My hat is off to you. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
All right, let's bring up our next speaker. We are going to bring to the stage on it to give a talk on eBPF. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Chris. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching. I'm Anit Gandhi. I'm a software engineer here at DigitalOcean. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about how DigitalOcean leverages a technology called eBPF and also how we contributed back to the larger eBPF community and especially the open source community. So let's get into it. Let's kick things off by really first talking about what eBPF even is and how DO actually uses it. So in a nutshell, right, eBPF is a powerful Linux system for running your own code inside the Linux kernel in a sandboxed environment based on all sorts of different events that happen in the kernel. And a lot of times as developers, we just take advantage of the abstractions of the Linux kernel, and that's great for a lot of our jobs. Sometimes you need to, dive a little deeper. You need to get better performance. You need to do things that you just can't always do without getting into the kernel. So eBPF is something that can be used for a whole ton of things like networking, security, observability, performance improvements, all that. I'm not going to dive into all the ins and outs of eBPF in this talk, just because that would take a really, really long time. But there's a ton of great content online and a really excellent community surrounding it. I really recommend checking out ebpf.io as a starting point. Really great content there. In the last 8 to 10 years, usage of eBPF has just absolutely exploded across the industry. No signs of slowing down. And, fun fact, it's actually not just a Linux thing anymore. Even Microsoft Windows has eBPF support in the kernel these days. So that's very cool. And that just goes to show you, how important it is these days. So let's talk about some of the components of eBPF. So really, as developers, there's 3 main pieces of eBPF. That's programs, maps, and links. So programs are typically written in C and they get compiled into bytecode. Obviously, as humans, we don't really typically write assembled code directly. We write something in a higher level language. Linux, the kernel, will verify the program and then load it into this sandbox environment. So because this is a privileged environment, we don't want to just run arbitrary, untrusted code without some level of enforcement and verification of rules of what it can do, what it can't do, what it's allowed to access, that sort of thing. So that's what Linux takes care of for us, to verify that all that works correctly and that we're not about to load a program that's going to potentially break things or take up too many resources. But you know, by itself, a program is not really useful unless you can tell it what to do, or you can configure it, or you can get data back out of it. That's where maps come into play. So eBPF maps are a structure or a set of data structures really for shared memory between the kernel and user space, and it allows for communication kind of back and forth between the two. It basically makes it possible for you to write code in user space and then actually configure your program. Links are really the final piece of the puzzle. So links are how you actually link or attach a program to some kind of event inside the kernel. So that could be a really common use case, like I said, is networking. So for example, receiving a network packet or even transmitting a network packet. Maybe you want to just count it. Maybe you want to modify it. You could design your program accordingly. You could potentially do it for every disk operation, every single syscall, all sorts of things. So let's look at an example program. This is a pretty contrived example, but it's meant to be just very simple. All it really does is count the number of incoming packets and just moves on. It just passes the packet along. As you can see, it's written in C. Even if you don't know C, you can kind of ignore the details of it. But basically, there's a specific format you have to follow. Certain annotations you have to give it. This one in particular is using a subset of BPF called XDP, which is Express Data Path. And what that really powers is really high performance packet processing. So that takes me to the next slide here, which is how eBPF is actually used at DigitalOcean. So eBPF is actually already powering multiple products at DO. As a cloud provider, we have to process like a lot of network traffic. And on behalf of our customers, we want to do it as fast as possible and efficiently as possible. So load balancers uses eBPF really heavily for some of the features I noted down there. And for our upcoming VPC peering feature, which is actually in feature preview right now, we're going to be coming up on beta soon. We leverage, again, BPF and XGP for routing packets. So we really can anticipate continuing to adopt eBPF for more products, and really excited to see what more improvements it can bring and what all we can provide back to the community. So speaking of community, I wanted to actually take a few minutes and connect back to the open source theme of Hacktoberfest by talking about a project that I open sourced a few months ago through DigitalOcean called eBPF Exporter. Like I mentioned before, eBPF has an amazing open source community, and I'm really glad to have been able to contribute back to it with this project. So as I was working on this VPC peering product that I talked about earlier, I thought to myself, how do I have the best observability or the operational excellence that's needed to productionize this, this product? If you've ever, done something similar in your job, you would know that, ensuring that you have the right metrics and the right observability is really key for getting anything, any project production ready. So I asked myself, like, okay, if I got paged, what information would I want to know about the eBPF system on one of our production instances that would help me troubleshoot, right? So things like, how do I monitor the state of our programs? Is my program actually running? How much memory are my maps using? One instance actually based on a true story of when we started to use BPF for load balancers that my team actually responded to was, how do you find out how many number of entries or how much a map is actually like consuming compared to its maximum? And also, other things like performance, how fast is my program running? So that's where eBPF exporter kind of came into existence. So it's a Prometheus exporter for gathering all sorts of information around like your eBPF programs, maps, links, the ones that are currently loaded and running in Linux. So it's written in pure Go. It uses the really excellent eBPF Go library from Cilium. Big shout out to everyone at Cilium and Isovalent for maintaining that really excellent library. So again, using the open source community that I mentioned. We open sourced this just a few months ago, but we are actively running it in production. I'm going to show you a couple examples of how we do that coming up here. The really neat thing is, Linux provides a ton of information about eBPF state and information kind of out of the box. But as humans, it's not always easy to just go and SSH into one of our instances and look at this information. Sometimes we want to be able to see it in a dashboard, or we want to be able to see it how things changed over time. That's where Prometheus really comes into play. If you've ever used it before, it's a natural fit for this kind of thing, and it's already widely adopted across the industry, and we use it very heavily at DigitalOcean. So talking about some examples here. So this is actually a snapshot of a dashboard, one of our dashboards for that VPC peering I talked about. I've scrubbed a couple details here and there, but I think you get the picture. Basically, it's showing how many programs are running, how many maps, how many links, and then here you could even see for the last 30 minutes or so what the number of map entries was looking like. Similar kind of thing. This is literally just copied from one of our alerts. We would actually get paged if this went off. So comparing the map utilization, but this is a totally functional alert. The one on the right is actually about link attachment, which basically means if my program is somehow not attached to what I expect it to be, which is 2 interfaces here, then I'm going to get an alert and say hey, something's wrong. So yeah, thanks. If you're interested in finding out more about eBPF Exporter, here's the GitHub repository link. I'm going to drop a link to it in the comments as well for your convenience. But yeah, take a look. If you use it, you run into any issues, definitely open an issue. I'd love to get any feedback. Or even better, if you find an opportunity for enhancement, or you find a bug, send a PR, especially right now during Hacktoberfest. I'd love to take a look, and I'd love to collaborate. I'll also be around at the end of this talk for any Q&A, but I'll keep an eye on the comments as well if you have any questions. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Anit. We really appreciate it. All right, everybody. With that being said, we are going to take a 5-minute break. So if you have to use the bathroom, get something to eat, get something to drink, whatever you need to do, we are going to run a 5-minute break. So be back here, and we'll see you in a few. All right, we are back. Hopefully, everybody got rehydrated. Everybody is doing good. Hopefully, you're still tuned in with us. We're having a great time. We hope that you are having a great time. I want to bring up to the stage our next speaker, Varsha, senior engineer. Welcome to the stream, Varsha.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Take it away.
Let me try presenting it. I was having issues earlier. Maybe I should just share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? All right. So, hi everyone. My name is Varsha Varadarajan. I'm a software engineer at DOKS, which is the team behind the managed Kubernetes service here at DO. I'm going to give a very short introduction to DO Valero and a brief insight into disaster recovery in Kubernetes in general. So, welcome to Hacktoberfest, and let's get started. So, when an organization offers services to users, it's imperative to kind of think about how to mitigate from unplanned outages or incidents. While we cannot really foresee every sort of unplanned outages, doing this sort of planning can help you review your processes and strategies that are in place for incidents. And it informs you of all the critical data that is in your systems that you need to protect. And you can also determine what sort of negative business impact you might have in case of system or a part of your system failing. And of course, prepare your team of engineers and non-engineers for incident responses. So what does this entail for Kubernetes? There are many kinds of outages. So like a bug in your system that you can instantly roll back and restore availability, or denial of service. Given the ephemeral nature of Kubernetes and I guess modern cloud components that you can use, data is what becomes the most critical to protect. And in Kubernetes, there are three kinds of data that you can protect. One is the cluster configuration. What is the version your cluster is on? How many nodes you have on the cluster, or what the node sizes are using, and auto-scaling, and so on. This is cloud provider specific and may not be transferable to each cloud provider, but if you want to restore onto a fresh environment in the same cloud provider, this is useful to have. The second is, what are your Kubernetes resources that you deploy onto a cluster, like deployments, pods, services, roles, to enable normal operations. And of course, your application data. This, because it's something that needs to be persisted, we generally use block storage devices that you can access from within your cluster through persistent volumes in Kubernetes, but they're not necessarily residing in your cluster. So now that we've talked about data, let's talk about backups for it. A backup is simply like a snapshot of that, all of that data at a point in time that you can use later to restore onto a fresh cluster from. It's not only useful for like outages, but if you have any data migrations, or if you're migrating from one cloud provider to another, it's really useful to use these backups to bring up a fresh instance, for example. Ultimately, the operations can be automated, run on a schedule, and then you upload it to a storage provider like DO Spaces and block storage. And when you perform these backups are kind of informed by some of the questions you can ask about your systems. Like how often does your data change? Like the cluster configuration data might not change as often as your application data or the cluster resources. It may change only during an upgrade where you're upgrading from one Kubernetes version to another. There might be certain outages where the data is still accessible to you and you want to restore in a fresh environment from the latest backup. So can you take a backup at the time of the incident? Of course, given how much time you have to mitigate the incident, it might be useful to just look up whatever's been uploaded. How long the backup takes can also inform that decision. And in cases of data corruption, checking if your backup is still valid is going to save you lots of time when you're performing a restore operation during an incident, for example. On the other hand, restore is a manual or a semi-automated process where you download all your data from the set of storage providers you have and apply all of this data into your new environment. You create a fresh cluster, you download the cluster resources from your object storage, you download all your application data through a volume snapshot, and then you have a fresh cluster that you can then point as the new production instance. And when do you want to exercise these restores? Obviously, during an outage, but it could also be useful when you're doing migration and when there is a data integrity problem, like some sort of data corruption that might have happened. It's also important to test this out regularly so that it's not the first time in an incident that you're trying out your restore process. So services change, criticality of their services become higher or lower, and you need to update your disaster recovery plan regularly, and exercising these restores will keep you informed and prepared for an incident. Velero is an operator, a Kubernetes operator, which simplifies a lot of these operations for you. It's basically a set of custom resources and a set of controllers that you apply on your old or productionized instance that is acting as your source cluster. And you can use some of the Velero constructs like the backup schedule or the backup hooks. For example, you might want to do a file system freeze on one of your workloads before you take a backup. So it exposes some of these constructs for you. But the really cool thing about Velero is the extensibility of it. It exposes this plugin architecture for you to sort of implement which cloud provider you want to upload your backups to. How exactly is your volume store? All of these are offloaded to plugins. And similarly, on the restore end, it's just going to contact the same cloud provider to download your cluster resources or manifest. It's going to contact your cloud provider to get the volume snapshots and then apply it on the fresh cluster. And this is where DO Velero comes into picture. So here, because block volumes are cloud provider specific, DO block volumes would require its own plugin implementation, which knows how to interact with the DO API. We expose APIs already for managing volumes and volume snapshots, but it's really this plugin that sits between Velero and the DO API to make this really seamless for you. Things like creating a snapshot or creating a volume on the restore end to from a snapshot to restore onto the fresh cluster are all exposed via this repository. We'd love to have your contributions here. I've listed some of them here. It's not exhaustive, but it's a very nice and simple project for you to begin with, especially if you're new to Hacktoberfest or new to Kubernetes also. So things like adding GitHub action workflows are some of the things that you might have already done before, and you can probably contribute easily. Some are specific to DO weirdness, if you will, where you can specify, say, a better way to identify the snapshot on your DO account by way of making contributions to UX in this project. And there is another Velero plugin interface that we're yet to implement, so we would love to have your contributions here. And that's it. Thank you for listening, and I'd love to see your contributions. You can also reach us at like the other than the Hacktoberfest channels. You can reach us at the Kubernetes Stack organization. There's a DigitalOcean channel and we'll be happy to help you over there. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Varsha. We appreciate it. Really, really exciting stuff coming out of the Hacktoberfest kickoff. Once again, I want to thank you and bring up our next speaker. So we are moving right along with the Hacktoberfest 2024 kickoff on this date, October 1st. I want to bring to the stage Mary Siebert, First Party Events Manager at Major League Hacking. Take it away, Mary.
That I am muted. Apologies for that, y'all. Rookie mistake here. I'm so excited to be here. I am going to start with introducing myself really quick here. My name's Mary. I use she, her pronouns. I work on first party events as well as the league team at Major League Hacking. So what that means is I'm primarily focused on the events we run in-house. So things like our digital events, stuff we do in our Discord, the conferences we run, as well as our league team. So I get to work with our 250 member event hackathons that take place at universities all around the world. Many years ago, I was a student hackathon organizer, so that's how I got involved in the community. And I definitely have a place in my heart for Hacktoberfest because I know how important this event is to student communities in particular. So really, really excited to get to be here today at the kickoff. All righty, so I can get my slides go. There we go. I would love to take a sec to talk about what Major League Hacking is, in case you aren't familiar with us. We run the global hacker community, and it's our mission to empower hackers all around the world. We're a public benefit corporation and a B Corp. If you aren't familiar with these, that is A-OK. Really what this means is we hold ourselves to the highest standard of putting our mission above anything else at the company. And that mission, of course, is to empower hackers. We know that there is such a big gap between what students are being taught in the classroom and what it takes to have a successful career in technology. And our work really focuses on bridging that gap between the two and helping to make it possible for anyone, regardless of if you're in a traditional computer science education background or a boot camp or don't have that formal education, that you can still get those resources and the tools you need to jump into a career in tech. So I'm really proud of the work we do. I think it overlaps so wonderfully with Hacktoberfest. So really excited that we get to collab with DigitalOcean this year. We're a community of over 1 million hackers around the world. We actually just had our 1 millionth hacker attend an MLH event earlier this year. This number really blows my mind. But if you want to be part of this community, you are part of it if you come to any MLH event. We would love to have you and love to have you or love to be on that journey with you. I'm going to talk briefly about some of the ways we live out our mission of empowering hackers. The first one is with our member event hackathons. We work with over 250 student organizations to help them run awesome hackathons. These take place in person all over the world. Highly recommend if you are a student and have not been to one, go and check out our events page. See if there's one coming up near you. You will have a ton of fun. And we've got these happening basically every weekend now that the season has really kicked off. In addition to that, we facilitate the MLH Fellowship. This is a 12-week internship alternative where you get to work on open source projects that are used in production at companies like Meta. All the fellows in this program get a stipend. It's 100% remote. It's a very, very cool program. Highly recommend applying for it if that sounds like something you might be interested in. And I imagine you are likely interested in it if you're here and love open source. The next way that we run events throughout the year is through our global hack weeks. I'm going to touch on these more later, but every single month we pick one topic and spend a week building things all around that particular topic. It's a week of live streams on our Twitch and YouTube where we'll do Code Along With Me sessions, workshops, mini events, all of that. We send swag to everyone who participates in these. They're really, really fun. Highly recommend checking them out. The thing I really like about these events is they fit into your schedule. So we have folks who will join us for 1 or 2 events throughout the week, and we have people who will join every single day. It is very much a choose your own adventure of what topics look interesting to you, and then, you know, tuning in as that works with your schedule. And this year, we are partnering with Hacktoberfest in a few different ways. The first one is the official Hacktoberfest meetups are being run on our registration platform, Organizer HQ. So I've had the chance to see a ton of the events coming in over here. So I wanted to make sure I gave a huge shout out to all of the folks who have already signed their event up. You can go and see the listing at this link here. But if you were thinking about organizing a Hacktoberfest event or meetup, this is your sign to do it. I promise you can do it. We have a bunch of cool ones going on over there. So make sure you go and check those out and either attend one or host your own if you don't see one coming up near you. And then in addition to that, we are partnering with Hacktoberfest for our October Global Hack Week. So those monthly events we do, the theme for our October one is all things open source, and I'm really, really excited for it. So this is coming up later this week. It's going to kick off on Friday, October 4th, and then it'll go all the way through the next week until October 10th. Over 50 live streams for you to either get started or continue in open source. We have a really wide range of topics that we're covering at this event. So if you have been a maintainer for years or you have never contributed to open source, there's going to be a workshop that works for you and something that you can find value in. So make sure you go and check out this schedule. 3 that I wanted to shout out really quickly on here because I'm particularly excited about them. We have one coming up this Friday, October 4th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Folks over at DigitalOcean actually are going to be facilitating this workshop. It is going to be an awesome one that you do not want to miss. After that, we have a Contributing to Open Source workshop taking place that same day, Friday the 4th at 6 p.m. This one is perfect if you are a beginner and you just don't know where to get started. You're going to want to go to this workshop. And then the last one I wanted to shout out is we have someone doing an entire open source mobile app throughout the week. They're going to be starting it on Monday, the 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So if you wanted to do something maybe a little bit more in depth, go and check out that workshop series. Again, you can go see our schedule on the website. There's a ton of other ones going on, but wanted to quickly shout out those 3. You can also add the calendar of them to your Google Calendar. I know we have folks who join Hacktoberfest from every time zone across the globe. This just makes it much easier to manage, I think. So you can go and grab our Google Calendar if you would like. mlh.link/GHW calendar. And of course, I know swag is very, very important. We send postcards and stickers to Global Hack Week hackers who are attending the event. If you sign up for the event, we'll give you all the details on this. But in general, if you come and participate in the event, we will ship you a postcard and some stickers, regardless of where you're at in the world. I meant to bring one over here so I could show it off on stream right now, but I forgot to. But if you join our Discord or something, I'll go post a picture later so you can see what you can expect having come to you in the mail post-event. And I also feel like it's worth adding, we also do some other swag giveaways during Global Hack Week. So if you're someone who likes swag, we do some extra just random drops to folks who are being active in chat or on Twitch, things like that. So here's the link to register, mlh.link/GHW. Go and get signed up right now, and then we will see you there later this week, October 4th through 10th. And that is everything I have. I'm happy to stick on here if there are any questions, but that is the end of my slides.
Cool. Thank you so much, Mary. We appreciate it. MLH is doing something amazing, and it's great that y'all are working with DO and Hacktoberfest to make the community a better place.
Great.
So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. See ya.
Thank you. All right. Next up, our last speaker before the wrap and QA, I want to bring to the stage John McBride, Senior Software Engineer at OpenSauced. Hey, John, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We're stoked to have you. Make sure you let Becca and Nick know that I said hi.
Yeah.
Amazing friends of mine. I've done a lot of stuff for the community with them. So without further ado, you can have the stage.
Awesome. Let me figure out how to share my screen. Oh, and I have to accept some terms. Sorry, everybody. We'll just do the entire screen. That's fine. Okie doke. Welcome, everybody. Let's share the slideshow here. And let me zoom way back. So in this talk, what we want to discuss is using open large language models. And open large language models are essentially the open source equivalent to maybe what you would imagine ChatGPT giving you with that text generation via AI, Claude, Sonnet, a bunch of that stuff. But I want to discuss enabling anybody via Hacktoberfest, indie builders, people just getting started. There are technologies and things out there that you can use to actually build with AI and build some really amazing stuff super cost effectively using AI. So this talk will also kind of share some of the journey with OpenSauced and how we achieved that. But before we could go too much further, who am I? Who's this person? Why should I care? And listen to them. My name is John McBride. I work at OpenSauced, where I've been heading up our infrastructure and a bunch of our AI and backend stuff. And if you don't know what OpenSauced is, it's essentially a platform for metrics and analytics into your open source projects or your big open source initiatives. And it's really a way that you can discover the who's who. Before that, I was at AWS working on Amazon Linux and BottleRocket and a bunch of other open source stuff there. Before that, VMware, Cloud Foundry, Pivotal, a bunch of other backendy things. But a consistent theme throughout my journey has been enabling open source ecosystems and building a bunch of stuff in the open source. A bunch of Go projects. I maintain something called SPF 13 Cobra and a bunch of things in Kubernetes as well. And yeah, I think that sometimes people maybe see like, oh, this person's going to talk about AI, like they're doing a bunch of crazy like research stuff. They have a PhD in computer science and they're like, a Python wizard. Before joining OpenSauced, and I think this is the real takeaway from this slide, before joining OpenSauced, I had no idea how to build anything with AI, truthfully, honestly. And even when I joined OpenSauced, before we built a bunch of our AI-enabled features as part of the platform, I think ChatGPT had just become a thing. Before that, like it was really sort of more the domain of people building things in academia and stuff. And very quickly, I was surprised by a bunch of the open and open source resources that are just available to anybody out there to be able to ramp up and start building these things. So let's dive in to maybe some more of the technical mumbo jumbo around how some of this stuff with AI and specifically text generation, again, think ChatGPT, how some of this works. And one of the big words that you'll run into a bunch inside of these open source ecosystems, or if you go into any of these projects, start maybe trying to make a contribution or even use those projects as part of your stack or your thing, is you're going to see this word inference all over the place. And essentially inference is a way that a machine learning model can derive something based on some new information based on its training data. And really, it's sort of the output that we end up getting from some input. That's really the explain like I'm 5, is there's some output that we get from an input. And really, in the end, all these things are just machine learning models ultimately. And these machine learning models are really just a bunch of vector math happening, on some GPUs and things. So inference is really important to kind of wrap your head around. There's some input, you give it a prompt, and some output is going to be dumped out. And that's really based on its training data from the neural network inside of the machine learning model. So you're going to see that word inference all over these open source projects and open source models. Again, with large language models, LLMs, usually that means some input text to some output text. You'll also see these things sometimes referred to as like engines. And really, these engines are ways that you can take a model and sort of hoist it as part of a bigger program, a bigger computer program to actually do something. So that was, honestly, a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Let me pop out of here and get into this thing here. Let me open this up. That's not what I want. Please hold. There we go. And let's actually talk about what a true inference engine would look like that is extremely cost effective, that you don't actually have to pay for, that exists and can work on your own hardware. And I'm going to pop open some slides for myself. Not some slides, my cheat sheet. Surprise, surprise. Nobody who does these talks does these without some technical slides here. So what I want to use, and let me blow this up a little bit. Sorry, I just came out of a meeting, so we're a little disorganized, but that's okay. What we want to use to actually do inference, and our inference engine is going to be something called Ollama. And what Ollama is a free and open source piece of software that can use a model, really that engine that can hoist the model, to then do some inference, or really just give you some in and some out. So if I come over here and I run Ollama, it's just a command line utility. I can do a bunch of different things with it. But really what we want to do is Ollama run. And what I'm going to run is one of the Llama 3 models here. And if you don't know about Llama from Meta, it's a Llama licensed model from Meta, trained on a bunch of the metadata that is actually very good and can sort of rival what is possible with some of the newer GPT models from OpenAI, or even some of what Claude can do. What I want to run then here is Llama 3.2. That's the newest one. We're going to run latest, and that's going to think for a hot second, and then it's going to give me an actual prompt. So I'm going to ask it, like, I don't know, something like, why is the sky blue? And it's going to think, and then it's going to actually dump out a bunch of stuff. Now, again, this is not using any sort of outside service. It's not using OpenAI. It's not using the internet really in any way. What it's actually using is my own hardware here on this MacBook. And you might be thinking like, oh, well, that's crazy because you probably have a GPU cluster somewhere. No. What I have is just any old MacBook, ARM64. Oh, where's the chip? Oh, here, it's an M2 Max, so it's a little beefier of a MacBook. But this is still consumer grade hardware. This is not like some crazy H100 thing. I can ask it to give me some TypeScript, like generate some TypeScript boilerplate for a, landing page or something. And it can actually go and do that, much like you would with ChatGPT, et cetera, et cetera. You can cancel that real quick and then get out of there. So my point with this being that, there are actually a bunch of these. Ollama is probably the most prominent today, but there's VLLM, there's LlamaFile, there's something called llama.cpp, which is like a pure C++ implementation of doing this inference and all this. Very good stuff. So if you're looking for a cost-effective way to hack on and use a bunch of this inference and do sort of AI somehow, Ollama is a really great way to look at that. All right, let me pop back over to my slides. So that lends the question of exactly what is an open AI model. And I'm specifically not using the word open source. This is maybe a little in contention. There are true open source models out there, ones that make their weights available, that make all the training data available, that are permissively licensed, like under Apache 2 or on an MIT license. But more generally, a quote unquote open AI model, like the Llama 3 models from Meta, have a little more of a restrictive license. And that's really the last point here, is that licensing with these things really matters. So That's my big word of warning, and maybe my disclaimer is I'm not a lawyer, so licenses matter, especially in the AI space, and there are some non-permissive licenses that you need to be aware of. So if you're building those into your product, consult with a lawyer. Do not consult with me. So these open AI models, though, generally may make their weights available. They may make some of the more nitty-gritty details about how they were built or how they were trained available. A more closed model would be those from OpenAI, where GPT-4, GPT-3, 3.5, none of those are actually available to inspect the weights or actually look at the underlying model to see sort of how the neural network under the hood actually works. But the main point here is that the licenses around these things matter. There's different flavors of kind of how they're open or how they might be actually open sourced. So be cautious and be aware of that. So let's actually look again. Let's go back to the terminal. Let's look at some demos quick of maybe using certain models specifically. You saw me run previously here some of the specific Llama 3 models. But what I want to do now is in my notes Ollama list. And what I have here is actually a number of different models. So I have the Pi 3.5 one. There's Gemma 2, a bunch of the Llama 3 ones, which are really good. The Mistral models, which are also really good. And there's a bunch of different ways, mostly through this platform called Hugging Face, that you can actually go and get these models. And Ollama provides a really nice way where you could just do Ollama pull. And if I just run the help message there, we could do Ollama pull model, and that would actually enable us to pull down a specific model that the Ollama sort of API makes available. But now that I've listed a bunch of these, I could do Ollama run. Let's do Gemma 2 latest, and that will then hoist up that Gemma model here and give me the prompt in just a second. This is a really good model from Google that is relatively lightweight and actually performs very, very similarly to some of the very, very lightweight ChatGPT models. So you can maybe say like, I don't know, what's your favorite D&D character? And it's going to think for a second. Oh, and it's going to pump out, I'm a large language model. I don't know what you're talking about. And you'll notice that different models will give you sort of different flavors of how they interact, how they react, how they might do different things, and under the hood have maybe certain specialties even. So there's tons and tons of these different open models out there and available for you to hack on, for you to use in your applications. At OpenAI, we chose to use some of the Mistral models actually because, one, they're permissively licensed under Apache 2, but they also offer a really, really good range of capabilities. They do something called a mixture of experts, which I won't get into, but highly recommended, very good. And maybe the point here also is that you don't need to pay a huge upcharge for a service that maybe if you are hacking on something or building something, open models are pretty much good enough for most use cases. Let's pop back over to the slides and get going again. Okay. Now let's talk about RAG. And here's sort of where I want to get into a little bit of a description of the journey that OpenSauce took. Initially, we were using and looking to build some AI features inside of OpenAI's platform. And we noted that basically was going to be astronomically expensive inside of a RAG platform. And what RAG is, just to give you an idea of how we built this and how we ended up using OpenAI models, or open models, not OpenAI, is RAG is retrieval augmented generation. And I like to think of a golden retriever for this whenever I think about RAG. The really important part of RAG is the actual retrieval part, where you're using some sort of interfaces or some sort of API or something to go and retrieve specific information that may not exist inside of the LLM's base knowledge or original training data. A really good example of this is relevant new data, because constantly these models are being trained, but then, they release those and they may only have training data up to like, last week or a month ago or last year or something. And how can we ask these things about relevant information today or within like, the current space of time from when they were last released? So retrieval is really important as part of retrieval augmented generation. Once you retrieve some relevant bit of information, then you can put that into a prompt, which is the augmentation part, and then ask it to actually generate something based on that. And I think the best way to kind of understand this is actually with a really simple demo. So with a demo here, what I want to do, let's get out of here. I'm actually going to show us a quick script. We're going to fly through the rest of this just for the sake of time. But what this script does is it looks at a CSV file, which is just a simple spreadsheet, and it's some Dungeons and Dragons facts. So let's actually look at that D&D facts here real quick. It has an ID as the first column, it has a category, and it has a fun fact. And I'm being a bit lazy in my script where, all I'm doing is I'm just retrieving via some command line stuff. I'm just retrieving one of the rows of facts. But this is really like looking into that CSV for some relevant information, maybe about a specific thing, and then using the API on Ollama to actually interface with that thing. So we get some facts from the CSV about something in D&D. We create a JSON payload based on that thing. And then we actually call Ollama. Again, notice that this is running on localhost, but essentially a small service that's running on my local computer that can then actually do that inference, based on some of the relevant information that we went and retrieved. So you could think of this as the first part, we're retrieving something, we're getting something out of the CSV. The next part, we're doing augmentation, which is really this line right here. Very importantly, this part where we actually inject the relevant information into the prompt. And then where we do generation down here, where we use that service from Ollama to do some text generation. So I'm going to run this script and we'll see it hopefully work. So there we see the payload where it actually got some relevant information on the magic missile spell in Dungeons and Dragons. It's thinking, it's actually doing the inference. And there it dumped out a bunch of stuff where we could see it took that relevant information about magic missile and then it actually generated some text around that using our Llama 3.2 open model. So that's retrieval augmented generation. Oh, whoops. Where are my slides again? I lost them. That's okay. So next, what I want to talk about is more of this service aspect, specifically something called VLLM, which kind of rounds out the journey that OpenSauce took around providing a at-cost inference service that then we could scale on top of Kubernetes. So what I have over here on this tab is this top little bit is actually one of the DigitalOcean GPU droplets, which is running a massive H100 cluster and has just a ton of GPU power. And what I'm running is something called VLLM. And I'll just run the help message on VLLM. Oh, it didn't like that. Let's do which VLLM. And VLLM is essentially a Python library to do huge scale inference, providing an OpenAI compatible API, which is basically an API that sort of looks like OpenAI, so we can use similar clients to it, but then just is not using OpenAI and doing instead inference on the GPUs on this GPU droplet. And
John,
what we
can you zoom in a little bit?
Can we zoom in? Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going the wrong
Someone in
way.
the chat was asking if you could zoom in.
Yeah, sorry, I got my like mega widescreen. There we go.
All good.
Cool. So, and what I want to do is, you'll notice another script down here and some like notes to myself, is I'm going to do something very similar where I have localhost. I'm hitting this localhost 8000 at v1 chat completions. And anybody who has looked at OpenAI's API before will note that that's essentially the same route. And in this little bit down here, this is the same JSON payload as you would hit with OpenAI. And then we can actually do some inference using this curl here. So I'm just going to grab this real quick. We're going to go, we're going to go back up here. There we go. And let's paste that in. There we go. I'm like 3 nested levels of tmux deep. But hitting this curl, we'll notice over here on the left, that's running VLLM. That then returns a 200, and that's relatively fast. And this is a little gross because it's some like JSON payloads. But we actually asked it the same thing, where we asked it, tell me about the magic missile spell. We could see you can cast magic missile multiple times in the row without worrying about blah, 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 blah. And what we can do is, if we just hit this over and over and over and over again, is we would see the 200s on the left continue to accept those requests, if I popped open a bunch of these tmux windows or, had like some service running on Kubernetes, this would be able to accept that at a scale that would be acceptable for building, a moderate service, and then be able to actually scale that up to potentially multiple services running multiple things all at once. So my point here with this, and this is definitely in the weeds, I admit, with like how doing inference at scale across like Kubernetes, blah, 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 and like GPUs and all that, that's probably out of reach for anybody who's not got, tons of money in the bank to actually go and like acquire a bunch of GPUs or rent them from DigitalOcean on GPU droplets, et cetera, et cetera. My point being is that this is an extremely cost-effective solution doing inference, much like you would with OpenAI or Claude or something, but using an engine and using a model that is more or less under your control and more under the kind of cost effectiveness of using cloud and hourly rates for cloud services. And I think that's where I want to end is, enabling you, Hacktoberfest hackers, and people, hoping to get their first PR in, their 100th PR in, whatever, or the indie hackers out there who want to, start building with AI things. Definitely check out Open Models. Definitely check out VLLM and especially Ollama, because they provide some great ways to build these things and get started without having to, open up an OpenAI build or something. So, I'll stop there.
Cool. Thank you so much, John. There is one question I want to get on the screen before we go to our wrap in QA. Does RAG change the weights of the model? Does it affect future responses of the model?
That's a really good question. Some mechanisms for some models, sure. Like you might notice in some of ChatGPT's capabilities where it'll be like, oh, memory updated or something. That's more or less a wrapper around the model that they've built to provide like additional context to models with additional prompts and things. But the actual like underlying weights and like actual neural network inside of the model itself never changes. That's like a very static thing for when you like ship a model. It's like that's all locked in. But then there's tons and tons of stuff around that you can do. RAG is probably the most popular choice. You can do fine tuning. You can also do like fine tuning is probably the other most well-known one, but really under the hood, those things don't change too much, especially in a RAG flow. It's really a great way to provide essentially additional context to a model that it probably doesn't have.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we appreciate that, John. And everybody can find you down here on Twitter, right? If anybody has any questions,
it's the one.
Check out Open Sauced. It's awesome. Thank you, John. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
And we'll catch you out there. Thank you. All right, now to wrap up, we are going to do a wrap in QA on all things Hacktoberfest. Again, answers to some questions. Let's bring up a couple people. Let's bring Matt to the stage. And I think that is it for right now, right?
That might be it, unless Aishika's here, but I'm not sure if she's going to join us.
Yeah, Aishika is
I
there
just
too.
I'm back.
Hopefully you're feeling better. So
Yep.
Let's get this kicked off. This is the wrap in the QA. Thank you again for everybody that tuned in all over the world, all the different ways. Thank you to all of our speakers, everybody that helped make this kickoff possible. It is much appreciated. We are very appreciative for that. So yeah, if you have any Hacktoberfest questions, put them in the chat. One thing to just keep in mind, remember the contribution guidelines of any project that you're going to be contributing to. Remember the rules and regulations of Hacktoberfest. And yeah, the floor is open for about 6 to 10-ish minutes. And if we go over, definitely follow on Discord, follow on Twitter, and ask away.
Yeah, what questions have people got? Now is the time to pick our brains on how Hacktoberfest works. I've been. This is my 6th year of doing Hacktoberfest in the inside.
I've been contributing as an outsider for years, so this is the first time I'm an insider. I
think this is the 6th year of me kind of being involved in the inside and like writing the program rules and mechanics, as it were. So if people want to pick my brain on how things work, now's the time.
In the meantime, while we wait for more questions, if we've got any maintainers on board, there's one thing that I would love to talk about. So a lot of times maintainers make this mistake of not adding a license to their repositories, which is actually incorrect. If you really want to maintain an open source repository and get valid contributions, even though it's not mentioned on the participation guidelines, it's very important for you to have a license file on your repository. This doesn't go just for Hacktoberfest, but in general, if you're an open source maintainer, make sure that you make it truly open source, your repository truly open source, by adding a license.md file with a valid license that fits your use case the best. Apart from that, again, not just for Hacktoberfest, it's very important for any maintainer to have a contributing guideline, because people do want to make contributions, and you're only making their lives easier by highlighting all of this stuff, all the things that you're on the lookout for. Another thing that you can explore is issue templates on GitHub. You can set all of that up. You can set up PR templates, read more into those, and you can just fish for the information that you need and make it easier for people to make contributions to your repository. So do be on the lookout for these things. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate from dropping them in the chat. We are more than happy to help you have a good time at Hacktoberfest this year and the years that follow.
That is
So,
great. That is great pointers, Ashika. The license for sure, and you can choose a license in GitHub when you're setting up that repo, and a PR template. I am a big fan of PR templates. I've actually created PR templates for projects, and I've written blog post on creating a really good efficient and organized PR template, because that's great for maintainers. That's great for anybody that's looking at that PR. So everything can
life
be
is
structured
easier.
and organized. Exactly. It's less painless, I would say, when it comes to reviewing PRs. And then also when you get into like the conventional commit style. Now, I'm not saying when you are putting in your commit messages, it needs to follow a conventional commit, but the PR title makes it less painless when it's in a conventional commit style, where it's like, if it's a feature, right, feat and then semicolon and what it is, or docs or anything like that, or bug fix. So
Chris, if you pull up my screen quickly.
Yes, here we go.
To the point of like adding the license and PR templates and stuff, as a maintainer, if you're in your repository on GitHub, if you go to the Insights tab and then go to Community Standards, GitHub actually has a checklist for all of these bits that they think you should be doing to have a high quality repository that you can share with the community. So this is Alves. It's a project I work on. They're an open source animal sanctuary. But you can see here, like, we've done all the bits. We have a description, we have a README, we have a code of conduct in there, a contributing guide so people know how to actually get involved with the project. It's open source license, in this case Apache 2.0, but there's a whole bunch of different licenses you can pick from, as Chris and Aishka said. We even have a security policy. So if someone finds a security vulnerability on our website, there's a way to report it. And then we have issue and PR templates. So if someone files an issue, there's a set of templates for how to sort that out. So like there's a bug template, or there's a feature template, and the PR template just encourages people to kind of describe their feature and how we should be testing it before we merge it and so on. So yeah, GitHub has this page on any repo, where as a maintainer you can go there and check that you've done all the bits that they recommend.
Awesome. Love it. This is a question that just came in from Unani. How do we navigate through Hacktoberfest as a beginner? Who wants to take that one?
Panic. No, don't.
Panic. No, don't panic. Don't panic at all.
Don't panic.
Yeah, don't listen to Matt. Don't panic. There's nothing to panic, honestly. I guess Matt can take over. We've got brilliant contribution guidelines that he can go through.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer I can give to you is go to the Hacktoberfest website, click on the participation page, and just read through the page. I know it seems like a silly answer and it's a lot of reading, but we've tried really hard to get as much info onto that page as we can to let people get into Hacktoberfest and open source really quickly. So we have our values at the top here, so everyone's on the same page about what Hacktoberfest and generally open source is about. We want quality and making sure that we're doing good for open source, not just chasing a prize or whatever for Hacktoberfest. There's a quick rundown of like what Hacktoberfest actually is. In this case, it's submitting 4 pull requests and having them approved by maintainers to a participating project. So that's the rundown there. And then really the important bit here is this resources for beginners section. I know it's just a bunch of links, but click on them. Go and read. Have a poke through them all. There's a bunch of information here on like how to get into open source and how to contribute to stuff. And then on the left here, there's a bunch of links specifically for finding projects and issues relating to Hacktoberfest, so you can participate.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Matt. Thanks for that clarification. We have another question from Lucia. I hope I didn't botch that. I know I have a friend named Lucia as well, and I know it can be pronounced differently. Can you please explain how badge prizes are achieved? But more specifically, the hollow pins is what they were asking.
The hollow pins. That is the prize this year. As you participate in Hacktoberfest, you unlock a set of badges on holopin. I say it's a set. It's like kind of a set. It's one, but you get multiple. It's weird. So when you register for Hacktoberfest, you will have received the first holopin in your progress on Hacktoberfest. That's your base level sloth. Our sloth is actually called Sloan. He's Sloan the Sloth. You'll find him on the Hacktoberfest homepage as well, just hanging out. There he is, or there. I think it's here. Their pronouns are they, them. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask someone in marketing about that. But Sloan the Sloth. He's our mascot this year. So yeah, you'll get that as your as your base level badge, and then as you contribute during Hacktoberfest, as each of your four pull requests that are required to like complete Hacktoberfest, as each one is accepted by a maintainer, you will unlock a level of badge, and that will let you customize. I don't want to reveal too much, but it will let you customize things about Sloan, so you can create your own unique badge as part of participating in Hacktoberfest, and that's on holopin. So then on your holopin account, you can create what's called a badge board on holopin, where you have all your badges. So the 4 or 5 you've unlocked from Hacktoberfest this year. The last couple of Hacktoberfest, we've done badges on there as well, so you can show them off. And then a bunch of other companies also use holopin. I know, like for example, I have some Cloudflare ones from contributing to their docs and stuff. They give out badges. So you can create a badge board on there, and then you can actually embed that on your GitHub or your GitLab README to show them off or put them anywhere else. Really, it's a bunch of badges that you can. It's virtual stickers that you can show off to
badges
show
for everyone.
Yeah,
everybody gets a badge.
Because then you don't have to replace.
That's the TLDR. You get one when you register, and you get one as you complete each of the 4 pull requests, and it will let you customize your character.
Awesome. We do have a question from Samuel. Can we get the links to the slides from the talks? We will double check with all of our speakers to see if we can get all of their slide decks. And I will ask Ashika and Matt, where do you think the best place we should post them? Discord? Should we put them on Twitter?
Once we finish the stream, there will be a full recording of it on YouTube. We can put the links in the description of that. It's probably the best place.
Awesome.
And we can always drop them on Discord too.
Yeah.
Also, before we wrap all of this up, I think now's the best time to talk about the cooldown period, Matt, because I don't think a lot of people have asked questions about the cooldown period. I just see a good question, but let's talk about the cooldown period. So over the past couple of years, we noticed that there were a lot of invalid spammy PRs coming in, and the maintainers sort of needed more time to make a decision on whether a PR or an MR is worthy of being accepted as a contribution towards Hacktoberfest, which is when the team came up with the concept of a cooldown period. So you might notice that when you do make valid contributions, valid pull requests or merge requests, it takes some time for that contribution to be acknowledged on the platform that you can see on your screen over here. So, Matt, I would love to have you talk about it in detail and tell us more about what happens under the hood, really.
Yeah, so for context for anyone who wants a written version of this, because it's the whole how PRs get processed and validated is surprisingly complicated. You'd think it's simple. It's not. There is a section on the website that goes through this in a lot of detail. I spent a lot of time writing this. It matches pretty much 1-to-1 with the actual code that does this. So when you submit a pull request on GitHub to a participating repository, because you signed up for GitHub, we're tracking that in the background automatically. We talk to GitHub continually and ask for all your pull requests. We then run the standard checks, right? Like, is it in a participating repo? Has a maintainer accepted it? Assuming all of that has happened, right, and your PR is accepted and valid, as it were, we do then have this 7-day waiting period. So if I go back to my profile here, Press that button. You'll see here, I've only made one pull request so far in the last 2 days. Shocking, I know. A lot of my work is internal now, but I did actually make one pull request to the Hacktoberfest site itself, which was merged and accepted. So Hacktoberfest sees it as accepted. But as you can see, it's in a waiting period currently. So once a pull request has been accepted by a maintainer, be that it being merged or approved, or even having the Hacktoberfest accepted label, it then enters this 7-day waiting period. Assuming that nothing changes about that pull request, there's nothing to worry about. In 7 days' time, it will be counted. You don't need to worry about anything at all. But what this 7-day period allows us to do is, one, it allows the maintainer to change their mind potentially. So, for example, they might add the Hacktoberfest accepted label pretty early on so that it counts, and then realize later on, actually, this PR wasn't what we wanted, it shouldn't count. Or they might approve it and then later realize, actually, it shouldn't count, and then take that back. So that 7-day period allows them some time to change their mind. But more importantly, the 7-day period also gives our team some time to catch any cheaters. So again, if you're playing by the rules and making legitimate contributions, nothing to worry about. Just let this timer count down the 7 days and it will count and you'll be fine. But that's what that 7-day period is there for. It's just to give us some time and maintainers some time to go, hang on, wait, that PR shouldn't count, it was spam.
Right. There's one more thing that you all need to be mindful about, as contributors, as beginner contributors. There are a lot of repositories out there that actually violate Hacktoberfest terms and conditions on participating. There are a lot of repositories that would, ask you to add simplistic PRs, like just adding your name to the README. So this is completely against the guidelines that we have laid down. So if you come across any such repositories, please make sure you report them and make Hacktoberfest a better experience for everyone involved. That's really important. And if you make any contributions to a repository that has asked for simplistic PRs and the repository gets disqualified from participating in Hacktoberfest, your contributions will not be counted. And after I'm not sure if this is valid for participants, but after a couple of strikes, yeah, you're just disqualified from Hacktoberfest altogether. If you make too many invalid pull requests or merge requests too, you get disqualified. So please refrain from doing so. Please give the contributing guidelines a thorough read, and that will help you and everyone else involved have a good experience this year and the years coming up.
Cool. Thanks so much for covering that, Ashika. We have time for 2 more questions we're going to highlight, and then we are going to end this on a high note. First question from Anugraph. Can I mitigate my open source project as an organization's project in Hacktoberfest? It will help for maintaining and collaborating, etc.
I'm not quite sure what's being asked here.
If you're talking about onboarding your open source project as an organization, I don't see any harm in it as long as you're following the contribution guidelines. If you're on the lookout for collaborators, you know the steps to follow. The repository needs the Hacktoberfest topic associated with it, and that should be it. If there's anything specific that you're on the lookout for, any specific information, please drop in a follow-up question or reach out to us on Discord, considering that we're right on time.
Yep. Can you drop the link, Ashika or Matt, for the Discord again, just for the Q&A section? And we have one more question. This is from Ashwin. I have a question about how is a repository a project checked for being a potential project or a repository to contribute to?
So the really short answer there is the Hacktoberfest topic. That is what matters. So if I go back to this Alveus repo here where I was before, currently this one doesn't have the Hacktoberfest topic because I took it out so I could demonstrate this. As a maintainer, you just press that cogwheel, go into your topics here, and type in Hacktoberfest and add it. And that is how you opt in a project. And then as a contributor, what you're looking for is on this right-hand side here, where the information is about the repository, you're just looking to make sure that Hacktoberfest topic is on the repository. That's what opts in the project and the repository so that you know it's accepting Hacktoberfest contributions. And that's what we're checking for on the back end. But obviously, as we've mentioned, there are sometimes repositories that are trying to cheat Hacktoberfest or whatever. So look for that topic, but also just apply some common sense. Is it a legitimate open source project that's doing a thing? We see a lot of projects that are just like collections of algorithms, or even ones we've seen ones in past years. People just go make a pull request to add your name to a list, and that's how you get a Hacktoberfest PR. Those don't count for Hacktoberfest. You can go on the website at hacktoberfest.com/report if you see those and let us know about them. It's very much a community effort to keep Hacktoberfest in check, that everyone's following the values of Hacktoberfest. So please don't contribute to repos like that. Yes, they're a great learning tool for getting involved with open source for the first time. So if you're not comfortable doing open source, by all means, use one of those to actually go and learn how to make a pull request. But don't expect it to count for Hacktoberfest, because what we're focused on is making some kind of meaningful, high-quality contributions to actual open source projects that need help.
100%.
That was a really long-winded answer, but really the answer is the Hacktoberfest topic and common sense.
No, it was a good answer. Live recorded video available. Yes, the videos will be available to check out. What were you going to say, Ashika?
No, that would be all. Matt covered it in the best possible way.
Awesome. Well, it's about that time, everybody. I just want to thank, once again, I know I thanked a lot of people today, but this is a very, very special event. And I've been participating in it for years. I know a lot of you out there have, or you might be new to Hacktoberfest and the mission and the open source community and the developer community. So I just wanted to give a huge thank you again to everybody out there in the community, everybody that made this Hacktoberfest kickoff what it is, everybody on screen, behind the scenes, all the speakers. And with that, I am going to let everybody go off. Happy hacking.
If I may, Chris.
Yeah.
I feel I have to do this. I feel like this is the hashtag ad sponsored read bit. Thank you to DigitalOcean for being the founder that runs Hacktoberfest every year. Without their support, Hacktoberfest could never happen. They put a bunch of capital up every year, essentially, to support everything Hacktoberfest. And then this year, thank you to Cloudflare and Quora for being our two sponsors that are also kind of helping make Hacktoberfest happen and supporting open source. Without them, we couldn't do it as well.
Yeah, thank you to all the sponsors, everybody. Dio, Hacktoberfest was created from Dio, so DigitalOcean. It's been amazing. If anybody has anything else to add, if not, we will wrap it up. Happy hacking, happy Hacktoberfest.
Happy Hacktoberfest, folks.
Later, y'all.